on this edition of Ultrasound.
Yes, he's a Backstreet boy, but at 28 years old, Kevin Richardson is unquestionably a man. Putting his talents and handsome features to quick use, Kevin landed a gig at the Disney MGM studios, appearing as Aladdin in the theme park's daily parade. Back in Kentucky, however, Kevin's father fell ill.
I moved back home, and within about a month or two, he passed away.
Stricken with grief, Kevin stayed home in Kentucky for nearly a year.
The fall came, and then winter, and that winter was just so depressing, and it was just like I felt like something was calling me back down in Florida. I felt like my mom was cool, my brothers were cool. We were all mentally cool with my father's death and dealing with it okay, and I felt like I could leave again.
Brian Luttrell's life began just up the road from his cousin Kevin in Lexington, Kentucky. As a child, however, Brian was diagnosed with having both a murmur and a hole in his heart. The doctors told Brian's parents to start thinking about funeral arrangements. And yet the resilient 5-year-old miraculously survived. The congenital heart condition, though, would ultimately need repair. And at the age of 23, Brian Luttrell would have to undergo open heart surgery.
It was kind of disbelief because I felt so healthy going into the surgery. That was kind of the hardest thing to believe, was why I had to do this in order to live the rest of my life.
Oh my God, we're back again.
My father was never really talked about a lot growing up.
When AJ was just 4 years old, his parents divorced and his father virtually disappeared.
My family continuously filled my head with, you're going to be successful, you're going to make a lot of money someday, you're going to be a big superstar and all this stuff. And they also said, your dad's going to come looking for you when he sees the little dinner bell ring and he sees the, cha-ching. Wow, man, what? They were right.
And even today, AJ remains emotionally conflicted, if not outright cynical, about the prospects of a long-term reconciliation.
What do you do? Because that is still my dad, that is still my flesh and blood. And, I look at someone like Kevin who doesn't have a father right now, and, I do, but, I'd love to fix things, but you just can't,
Howie Duro was only 12 when his older sister Caroline was diagnosed with lupus, a disease that affects the immune system. The chronic condition is one that patients can live with, but when Howie got the call that his sister's health had taken a turn for the worse, he knew he had to be there.
Just something in the back of my mind said, you know what, just get on the plane, don't even think about it. It was like 5 o'clock in the morning when I got the notice.
Howie immediately headed to Raleigh, North Carolina, where Caroline lived. But even that wasn't soon enough.
I actually missed the first flight out, and I caught the second flight. And me and my father had just missed actually having like a few moments to hang with her.
Though Howie's sister had lived with lupus for 13 years, her battle with the disease ended suddenly. She was 37 years old.
Out of all of us, my mom took it the hardest.
Right.
Because it's like, it's one thing if, your parents pass away, but having your own daughter, your own son or whatever pass away, that's
what they say, you're never supposed to bury your children.
Yeah, exactly.
He's the young one. Backstreet's preeminent heartthrob, Nick Carter, became a Backstreet boy when he was still just 13 years old. Perhaps it's no surprise, then, that Nick's mother was never far from his side. Jane Carter has indeed been the most involved and most visible Backstreet mom, relishing her son's spotlight and occasionally stepping into it.
Nick Carter and his mom,
While ex-girlfriends have written books purporting to expose some of Brian and AJ's most private moments, Nick's secrets were revealed by none other than his mother, who dished up the goods in 1998's Heart and Soul.
Been pretty involved in your career from the get-go. Do you now think that maybe it's not such a good idea for family and business to be intertwined?
I believe that right now, it's more so that I want to be just family and not business.
Backstreet's back.